Hello, this is OverlordBou, back with another ship review video, and today we'll be looking at the new, highly anticipated Tier 8 American cruiser, the San Diego. Now, you'll be able to get the San Diego as part of a special consecutive bundles for 11,300 doubloons starting on July 1st. Now, I would recommend getting this ship when it comes out for the 11,300 doubloons in the premium shop about a month after the event's done, or after the event's done, it will then go to the premium shop. But if you want to fork out the money and get into special bundles, it's totally up to you if you find it worth it or not. Now, I'll be going over why I recommend the San Diego in today's video, so let's go over the build. Now, the build will be going over the top right. Now, the San Diego build works fine with the 19-point commander. The consumable enhances your sheet isn't really necessary. You can take it if you have a 21 point, you can take it. If you have a 19 point, the build still works as well. You can also see the order of the operation of the skills you want to be taking, and also now you can see the modules as well. You can see what modules you need to pick and the consumables you're going to be choosing. Now, the San D does not have a benefit from any unique captains except for Halsey. So Halsey is the kind of commander you kind of want to put on there. Now let's go over the armor and the survivability. Now the armor scheme will be shown on the top right. It has a 16mm bow/stern with an 89mm belt armor with a 13mm superstructure. It has an above water citadel under the bridge and engine room. Now under the water narrow citadel under the turrets as well, so you have to watch out for that. It does have 27,900 HP pool. It's essentially an Atlanta armor layout, but with 16mm bow/stern, which cannot be overmatched by 203 guns. It also has access to the repair party. Sandy has a mediocre overall survivability, even with access to the repair party. Her Atlanta armor scheme is still fragile and vulnerable to citadel hits. Although she can bounce 203 guns, large caliber cruisers like Alaska will overmatch and easily rip her apart. Instead, Sandy must rely on her concealment and vulnerability to survive her engagements. Now for the main armament, you have 8 twin 127mm 38 guns with a 14 gun broadside. It does have a range of 14.8 kilometers with a 5.5 second base reload. It does have a 7.2 second 180 turret traverse. Now it can fire 32 degrees off the bow and 31 degrees off the stern. The SAP shell damage is 1800 with a 36mm SAP pen with a 70 through 80 degree ricochet angles and 275k SAP DPM. It also has a 2100 AP shell damage with an 8mm overmatch with a 45 through 60 degree ricochet angle with a 321 AP DPM. Now it does trade its HB for SAP, HE pen for no fires, overall poor shell ballistics, though notably faster than the standard US 5-inch guns, which are slightly better than the Cleveland ballistics, about same as the Russian DD shell ballistics, you want to compare to that. It does have good firing angles no matter the orientation, excellent SAP DPM, but held back by the weak penetration. It does have the AP with the improved penetration, slightly better than the Russian 130mm DD guns, still weak overall. Now you do get the weakened version of the MBRB with a 33% reload time. Now also on the top right you'll be seeing the dispersion of the guns, so you guys can take a reference for that while we're talking more about the guns. Now the San Diego guns are an overall improvement over to her Atlanta sisters, sporting faster shells, access to SAP, and main battery reload booster. Though the SAP cannot light fires, they have enough pen to punch through the important 32mm threshold, giving her more consistent damage. Now SAP will be her primary shell type, effective against DDs, most cruisers, and lightly armored BBs. Now SD's AP is fairly niche, but can be useful against broadside cruisers or BBs under 8 through 10 kilometers. Now the MBRB is very useful for bursting down vulnerable targets, but you have to be careful as you only get 3 charges per match, and each reload takes 3 minutes. Whew. Now you gotta make sure you aim the guns as if they are Russian DD ballistics, so think about it that way. Now for the torpedoes, you get 2 quad launchers, 5 33mm torpedoes, 4 torpedoes per side, with a 16 4,633 damage per each torpedo. Now they do have a range of 4.5 kilometers, 65 knot speed, and 87-second reload. So pretty much it's a point-blank torpedoes with respectable damage. The San Diego does carry the same torpedoes as the Atlanta, and identical in every stat except for having a slightly faster reload time with a torpedo range of 4.5 kilometers. They're limited to point-blank night fighting. Don't plan on surviving the fight if you resort to these torps. Note that a full rack will not one-shot most full health BBs. Now let's move on to the anti-air. For the anti-air, you have 6 inner plus 1 outer flat clouds, with a long DPS being 168, mid being 91, and near being 116. Now the San Diego's AA is overall above average due to her obligatory improved DFAA and relatively strong long-range AA. Her high flat count is also effective against less capable CV players. Though her continuous AA is poor, DFAA again compensates for it, boosting its effectiveness to roughly a Cleveland. Keep in mind her AA is effective against tier 8 CVs at best. Tier 10 CVs will have little problems breaking through her AA. Now San Diego will still go down quickly if she takes hits, so be careful when engaging enemies with CVs around. Now let's talk about the depth charges. The San Diego does get airstrike version of the depth charges, so it gets to 2 charges and 6 depth charges per attack, with a damage of 1600 damage. It does have a reload time of 45 seconds with a range of 7 kilometers. It has the same depth charge airstrikes as the other US cruisers. Kind of mediocre, odd considering how effective the USN was at ASW. Let's move on to the maneuverability. Now it has a max speed of 32.5 knots with a 610 meter turning radius. It has a 7.3 second rudder shift with a slow top speed, amazing turning radius superior to most DDs, and a fast rudder shift. Though Sandy is a slow ship, she compensates for being very maneuverable, almost on par with a gunboat DD. She can dance around torpedo salvos and enemy shells alike, important as her armor is very thin. With her repair parties, excellent maneuverability, and a bit of luck, Sandy can outlast most of her opposition. Now for the concealment. With the concealment, you have a surface base detection of 11.8 kilometers and an aerial of 7.2. If you build all the way into the detection, you get a 9.3 kilometer surface detection with an aerial detection of 5.8 kilometers. San Diego is a very stealthy cruiser with 9.3 kilometer surface detection, beating out nearly every cruiser she can face except for a handful of Russian and Japanese cruisers. Her surface detection is even superior to her Atlanta class sisters thanks to the concealment module in the 5th slot. This helps her immensely from choosing her engagements to getting closer for an easier shot. Now let's move on to the consumables. It does get a standard cruiser damage control party with a 5-second immunity period and a 60-second reload time. It does have a standard cruiser repair party. It heals 14 through 17% of the total HP. 3 charges. You do get 4 with Superintendent and do have an 80-second reload. Now it does get a unique San Diego defensive AA. It has 4 base charges, 5 with Superintendent, 100% continuous damage, and 300% flak damage with a 30-second active time and a 60-second reload time. It has a slightly different active and reload time, improved continuous damage as well. It does have a standard Hydro with 3 base charges, 4 with Superintendent. It does have a ship detection of 5 kilometers, a torpedo detection of 3.5 kilometers, with a 100-second active time and a 120-second reload time. It does have a weakened main battery reload booster, 2 base charges, 3 with Superintendent, with a 33% main guns reload time for 15 seconds, and it effectively squeezes in 1.5 extra salvos, and these do have a 180-second cooldown. Now let's go over my overall impressions of the San Diego. Now the San Diego is definitely a high skill floor and a very high skill ceiling ship. She's essentially the tier 8 version of an Austin. sharing the same general characteristics and playstyle. With SAP and the reload booster, she's excellent at demolishing DDs and other cruisers who don't angle. Though her shell ballistics have better ballistics similar to, say, Russian DD ballistics, their still floating nature limits her effective range down to under 12 kilometers per se. Ideally, she wants to be on the flank where she can farm enemy broadsides. Although unable to set fires, she can rack up a ton of damage when positioned properly. That being said, Sandy is still a fragile ship and can be ineffective if not played properly. Due to her fragile hull, she relies more on the island usage and maneuverability to conserve HP. Sandy also struggles against well-armored targets such as Russian BBs, with the vast majority of their shells shattering on impact. She is also ineffective against extremely angled targets. Avoid those targets unless you have no other choice. Even with those drawbacks, San Diego is a very capable ship when played, even when played properly. So I would say for randoms, she's good, highly effective against slightly armored ships. Now in this current ranked meta, I would say it's mediocre due to the during the meta being tier 8 through 9. It fares poorly against the meta BBs. It requires spotting support to fight DDs. Also ineffective in 1v1 fights. It does struggle against most cruisers, BBs, and only saved by the MRB and heals. So again, going off earlier, I would recommend the ship for the 11,300 doubloons, but I would not recommend getting the bundles and then the ship. I would say just wait for it to come out a month later, after the event's done, when it's in the premium shop, and that's where I would recommend the ship for this review. But yep, that is going to be it for the day. If you guys have any questions or concerns, thank you all for watching. I do appreciate you guys' support. But yep, I will talk to y'all later.
Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.